Jeanne Sutton and Jake Rushton, thank you so much for being on the Fiduciary You podcast. I'm super pumped about today's conversation.
Thanks, Josh. Excited to be here.
Now this is
what's going to happen.
This is the first time I've ever had multiple guests on the Fiduciary You podcast, which I'm really excited about. But for listeners out there, there may be some awkward pauses as Jeanne and Jake are figuring out who's going to speak first. So bear with us. We're going to talk today about marketing, and specifically social media marketing and personal brand building. And if I think about really within the 401k industry, the two of you are like social media marketing royalty. I would say that the two of you probably is better than anybody else in the retirement industry, have really built these personal brands. Jeanne, you, AKA 401k lady, Jake, AKA 401 Jake. And you guys have been incredibly active over the past several years. You guys have a great presence, a great following. And what's really cool is now you guys are under the same brand at SRP, with Jake just recently announcing his move over there. And so really interested in getting kind of your insights and your perspectives. And so why don't we just kind of dive in, and we'll kind of see where the conversation goes. But what was it that attracted you? There's a lot of different ways to market out in the industry. What was it for each of you that attracted you to this idea of really leveraging social media, certainly LinkedIn, but also things like whether it be Facebook or whether it be Instagram? Jake, I know you're big on TikTok. What was it that originally for each of you got you so inspired as a marketing channel like this to leverage?
Yeah, Jeanne, you go first.
So I think I just stumbled into it. When I started in the career, everybody told me to get credibility, I needed to write a book. Like, you need to write a book. And so I started trying to write a book, and I got so frustrated one day and eventually was like, it's just a lot easier for me to talk than it is for me to write. Like, that was natural to me. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to film videos about a certain topic or to answer a question. And really they started on YouTube primarily. And I was like, I might as well toss this out on LinkedIn. And that served me well. So it was more so like it was easier for me to talk. And then I just thought, we'll toss it on LinkedIn, and happened to use 401k lady one day. And it just stuck, and it worked out well.
Awesome. What about you, Jake?
Yeah, I think for me, I started listening to podcasts, and I came across this podcast by Pat Flynn. And I think one of the second or third episodes I listened to, he had Gary Vaynerchuk on his show, and it just changed how I thought about everything. I mean, it just really, like, the way that he was talking about, this was back when Snapchat was huge, and it was like, he just was drilling it into the audience's head that you had to do more content and that he was going to explode. And I had never heard of the guy. And this was really early on, when VaynerMedia, when he was just getting going too. And so from that moment is when I really started to pay attention to social media. And honestly, it just started with LinkedIn. I went with this goal of posting once a week. I called it my Thursday thoughts. And I just, whatever I was doing, whatever was in my mind that week, I shared it on Thursdays on LinkedIn and just put it out there and see what happened.
And we're going to talk as we get into this a little bit about the process that you guys follow when you develop content, because you guys both are really, really good, not just with the thoughts and the idea and the content, but production value as well. And I think a lot of advisors, that the conventional wisdom that you hear from every consultant is you have to do video, you have to do social media, which I think maybe we'll talk about. Maybe every advisor shouldn't be following that conventional wisdom, but I do think advisors probably struggle a little bit with, well, how do I get started? And so we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Maybe a good place to start, though, is, what's your goal when you create content? Is it kind of top of the funnel lead gen with planned sponsors? Is it thought leadership? Is it being viewed as a leader within the industry? Is it engaging with, participants? Is it validating kind of your position as a leader to your existing clients? Is it all of the above? For each of you, what are your primary goals that you're trying to achieve, or the outcomes you're trying to achieve by creating this content?
Yeah, for me, it's about impact. So I do it with the mindset that I just want to give back, that I want to share with people what I'm up to. And because I struggled, right? As a 401k advisor, it's a lonely process for a lot of us where we kind of fall into this. I was an advisor for 10 years. I didn't figure it out until way later in my career that 401k was where I wanted to be. And at that point, it was like a whole new career. I had to learn this entire new language. I had to reach out to all these people, figure out who could help me, realizing some people were not telling me everything. And it was a total learning process that I felt like my clients suffered. So for me, I just want to give back. I want to help more people have a better chance to get more time back, to get further in their careers, to do more that they want to do. But in the end, the winners in that process are the plan sponsors, the participants, the clients that we work with. When you have a specialty advisor that has had training and experience, which doesn't really exist out there, then they're gonna be able to help them a lot quicker. So that's what's motivated me.
What about you, Jeanne?
Yeah, it's the same goal that I had in 2012. I found an old business plan. I actually posted on LinkedIn a couple of years ago. 1-page Word document. The number one goal was to be known as the 401k specialist in South Central Kentucky. That was my goal. So to establish credibility, to have thought leadership, to have people recognize that's the person who knows about 401k that can help me. Whether it be somebody in the industry or a plan sponsor or an existing client. So everything I post is really meant to be from an educational perspective. It's meant to provide knowledge. And I like my kind of the way I phrase it is to simplify an overcomplicated jargon-filled industry. So every post is kind of with that, simplifying an overcomplicated jargon-filled industry.
Yeah, Woody Guthrie once said that any fool can make simple things complex, but true genius is making the complex simple. It's interesting for you, Jeanne, the fact that was kind of in that kind of more localized area. Obviously, it's become on a much more national. But getting started and really kind of what those goals are, I really do, and I've always kind of followed this in my career, is actually the best way to learn is to teach. And, a educated prospect or client is typically going to be a highly engaged client or prospect. And a highly engaged client or prospect is going to be a retained, client over time. Are you guys seeing much top of the funnel lead gen? Is this kind of the primary way you're developing business, or are you seeing it as kind of one piece of the puzzle with a number of other activities that you're following? And if so, what are those? How do you see what you do on social as fitting into the overall kind of strategy or puzzle? Jeanne, why don't you go first?
Yeah, so we have seen some. We do get, LinkedIn messages from cold people that say, hey, we're looking at starting a plan or something like that. It's not, the bread and butter of what you're putting on social media. And to be honest, as we've moved up market in 401k, especially, most of that's not necessarily our ideal prospect or client. So it is there, but that's not the goal. The goal is to reinforce credibility. Is to, when somebody does see us out or we do have a prospect, for them to have a place to go to see again, oh, they do know what they're talking about, that sort of thing. So that's the goal. It's the branding. It's not necessarily the lead generation.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think awareness is a big part of it, right? So the point is, if somebody refers you in, maybe an HR person tells another HR person at a conference, if they go to their phone and look you up and there's nothing there for them to find, you've kind of missed the shot that you had. So you want to get that why me, why our firm out of the way before you step into that meeting, because trying to convince them in an hour is not going to be a very good scenario. So you've got to have a lot of content, or at least some content for them to find, to get a feeling of if you're somebody they can relate to, if they can trust, if they even emotionally want to have you around, because that's going to help them make that decision. They're going to justify the decision to hire you based on the knowledge you have, but they're going to emotionally have to make that decision of whether or not they want to be, spending time with you about their 401k.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I don't know about you guys, but the way that I buy things now, just look at Amazon, right? A little bit earlier today, I was at Home Depot because I needed to get something, and I actually went to Amazon to get reviews on the product that, and then there was a cheaper price. So I went into Home Depot and I saw it and I was like, I want this. I'm just going to buy it on Amazon because it's going to be cheaper. And the reviews, that's where I got really good kind of reviews for it. There's a lot of due diligence, I think, that especially with 401k plans where it's not like individual money where I'm making, you've got one or two decision makers, that are making the decision for themselves. You've got this complex sale with, committees and these professional buyers. And in a lot of cases, if it's an HR department or if it's the CFO, they're kind of putting themselves on the line if they're going to make a decision. And so part of that is that social proof that's out there. And this is why, like, historically, I think it's gotten better, but for a long time, some of the worst websites in the world were financial advisor websites. They were it was like a GeoCities site. I was like, my 8-year-old could code a better website than what a lot of these advisor websites look like.
I still find those. They're still out there.
Yeah.
and if you find somebody or you get referred, you go on and they have a garbage website, immediately, I think that's going to trigger, this is not high quality. And I think what I hear you guys saying is, in a lot of ways, what you guys do on social, that awareness, in some ways with plan sponsors, it may not be, top of the funnel lead gen, but it's more of that social proof that if they get referred in or they find you or they see you, that part of their due diligence process that they can say, okay, these two people really know what they're talking about. Is that fair?
Yeah. I had that happen in a meeting with an over $20 million plan. A couple of the committee members have been watching my YouTube channel, which was for advisors mainly, but it gave them enough good feelings and hey, this guy knows what he's doing. Why are we not hiring him right now? And they voted right there in that meeting. So you never know who's going to be watching, and you need to understand the difference between social and search. And that's why I think it's just look at what we're doing. Look at how Jeanne, she posts on her videos on LinkedIn every week. They also go on YouTube. So someone can find them, and if they're on LinkedIn scrolling, or they're going to search for it and they're going to find her on YouTube. So understanding where attention is a huge part of it, right? Because you'll lose your momentum or even your drive to want to put content out if no one's engaging with it, and you might just not be putting it in the right place, right? So it's a process that takes years to figure out, but we're trying to help others shorten that process.
Yeah. What do you find is, there's obviously, like you said, YouTube's the number 2 search engine in the world behind Google, obviously owned by Google as well. And what I hear you guys saying is kind of this multi-channel approach. You've obviously got YouTube, you've got LinkedIn, which is where I kind of see both you guys probably be most active. At least that's where I kind of see you. But you've also got maybe not so much Facebook, but things like Instagram or TikTok. Jake, I know you're a big TikTok guy. What do you find is, for what you guys are trying to accomplish, what's the best platform currently for you guys to kind of tell your story?
Yeah, take it, Jeanne.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's LinkedIn, which I worry sometimes may be short-sighted. Should I be doing more on Instagram and TikTok and that sort of thing? I've thought about repurposing content, put out on those platforms. And I made the decision, right or wrong, that I was going to just really focus on LinkedIn because I did feel like that's where most of the prospective clients were, from just a concentration of market. Again, that may be short-sighted in the long run, but just to keep it manageable and produce good content specific for a platform, LinkedIn is, of course, where I'm finding the most success.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. LinkedIn is definitely where I'm having the most traction. But I think the best thing to do is to take a step back and think about your personal brand and work on that and put that on every platform, right? At least have a profile on every platform. And so that if LinkedIn disappeared tomorrow, I don't disappear. So that's where we're getting people complaining about the algorithms changing and all these other things happening because they were completely reliant on maybe just one platform. So you've got to think about you and what you want to be remembered for and how you want to help people, and then broadcast that to wherever the attention is. And I bring up TikTok, like you brought that up, because that's where a lot of attention is going. That's where you get a lot of easy reach to more people that have no idea who you are. LinkedIn, I've got a good little following, good group. We know a lot of our 401k advisors and the people in the industry, they're influencers. We all connect and talk to each other, and it's a blast. However, there's a lot of other people that may have businesses that are booming that need help with the 401k or have struggles. And if they're scrolling through TikTok because they got sucked into it for a few hours and they come across me, well, hopefully that's going to create some awareness. And if that's an issue, now I'm kind of in their minds, right? And so they might come back to it when it is a serious decision that they need to make.
Yeah. Have you guys, and I think that's always kind of the question, and to be fair, like I've been kind of a TikTok skeptic, mainly not that I'm in that kind of advisor role anymore, but thinking about it, it's like, well, there may be like participants there, but participants don't make hiring decisions. Maybe they're hanging out on TikTok, but we're kind of the buyers, the people who have the power of the pen that can kind of strip the check. I mean, I think the conventional wisdom is LinkedIn. One of the challenges I found with LinkedIn, I don't know about you guys, is, and maybe this is a COVID thing, but the amount of like, I'm getting all this cold sales outreach on LinkedIn. It's actually driving me nuts. I'm like, this is like becoming like Facebook without like the political commentary. But I bet I get 10 invites a day from just people wanting to kind of tell me stuff. I'm getting a little desensitized, to be honest with you.
I think they're cracking down. I think that's changing. I've noticed that it started to decline a little bit because I was getting bombarded as well. But I think LinkedIn has been aware of that, and now they're making sure that that's something they want to keep people on the platforms, right? So they got to fix that. So we'll see where that goes. But you're absolutely right. Like marketing, and it will ruin every platform eventually. I'm even seeing way too many ads on TikTok right now, which has me concerned because it's already gone too far that way in some ways. So
I'm super popular in the Philippines, by the way. Everybody in the Philippines wants to connect with me. So
on Facebook, I don't know what it is. I have a lot of people from the Philippines following the 401 Club on Facebook, and I don't know what's going on with 401k and that term there, but they love it.
What do you think, Jeanne, as far as kind of LinkedIn? And do you think because there's so much, I would imagine, I know prospects, right? HR people, they're probably getting bombarded the same way. Do you worry about them getting kind of desensitized to LinkedIn because they feel like it's just this kind of become this kind of cold outreach cesspool, if you will?
Yeah, I can't say too much because of a program I'm a part of, but I can tell you that LinkedIn is aware of the cold, particularly the messaging. I can get you 10 to 15 leads a month. And I know they're working on it. So I think that will be better. But I used to, even just last year, a lot of, if I was trying to reach out to somebody cold, I would do it through LinkedIn messaging. And I've pretty much stopped because I think it's now been ruined by these cold calls. So it's almost funny. It's almost like I reverse now. And if I'm working on a cold prospect, I'm more likely to actually call them, right? Like, remember cold calling was dead and everything was social. And now I'm like, let's go back to cold calling because LinkedIn messages are driving everybody crazy. Like nobody's looking at them anymore. So I think for you to be like on top of your game with social, you got to constantly adjust.
And on top of that, what I've adjusted for direct messages, because there's so many people cut and pasting messages that are outsourced, they're not really even the actual person. I send a video or a voicemail. Like that's the difference is I want them to come into my world and like actually be aware of me and want to consume my content because it's really me. Like I'm accessible. You can reach me. I'm actually responding to you. That's the difference. When I get spammed, I try to respond to all those and see if there's actually that person behind that DM. And sometimes I have some engagement. Most of the time though, it's not them. It's a third party. It's some vendor. It's really, you can tell right away. And so for me, if I can at least get through to them in a way that they'll follow me and see that they're going to get some value from following me, then that's a good thing to do.
And Jake, I know, so, one of my philosophies just in general, this is how I kind of, it's my philosophy at Greenspring back in the day as well, was systematize the process. And this is how we serve clients, systematize the process, but personalize the relationship. And Jake, I know you're big. I mean, I'm a big user of Loom, right? Just being able to kind of record videos and send that out. I know that's something that you've done, Jeanne. I don't know about you as well, but, personalizing, and I think maybe Jake, I've heard you use like Video Ask as well. There's some platforms. That's a good question. What are as you're doing kind of this, creating this content, what are some of the favorite tools that you guys use? The cool thing about like Loom or some of those other platforms is you can personalize that message. So it's not just this kind of random, what is clearly kind of a cold automated outreach. What are some of the tools that you guys like to deploy or use as part of your kind of arsenal when you're developing content?
Yeah, so I love Loom. Like you said, that's a great platform to send a video through email, right? You can tell if they've looked at it or not. You know how to follow up. As far as like video goes, like I use my phone almost all the time. I did just get a center cam, which is I'm excited about because I'm looking at your faces while I'm talking to you instead of a camera, which has been cool. But when I record and I make a video, you can make it look so much more professional just by a couple little things, like adding some sound, adding some music, maybe adding some overlays as you're talking about something. So I use Splice or CapCut. Those are the two editing tools, and I do it on my phone because I'm always on the go. I don't have time to sit down at a computer and just sit and edit. I'm like at a kid's practice or wherever. So it's all about speed to me, and editing was what was throwing me off, and I was not getting stuff out. And then I do love another tool for longer format videos called Descript that is an editing tool, but it transcribes the entire video. It puts it into Word format, and you can cut out the ums and the uhs and the pauses, or maybe you want to take a whole section out you didn't like. And it's so much easier than trying to edit on like Adobe or, Final Cut Pro, one of those more professional platforms. So I'm not an editor or a videographer, but I don't have enough time or, the budget to hire someone to do it right now. So I'm doing it all, and I've had to rely on technology to help me get those out there. So you'll notice, like I posted a video yesterday, you'll notice a little bit different style. I'm trying to cut those up into little sections. So I'm saying something, I move around, it's a little more engaging. Little tricks like that, you just learn along the way, and you're not going to know from the very beginning. You see so many advisors that post, a 3, 4, 5 minute boring video of them with terrible lighting, the camera's up their nose, and it's like, no one's engaging with it. Well, look around at what other people are doing, and it's not that hard to make some adjustments, right? Make it more fun and engaging. And that just takes a little bit of practice.
Jeanne, I know one of the things I like about your videos are that you're talking, but you've got kind of the transcription that are in there, or that's in there as well. What do you use to do that? Because I think that's, to be honest, with the videos I do, I actually don't do that. I probably should, but I just don't feel like I have the time. Like, you're not writing out that. Are you writing out that entire, that entire thing yourself, or are you using a platform like Jake mentioned that kind of automates that for you?
Yeah, my videos are made with the most rudimentary processes and systems possible. For me, I get interested in this new technology that we're talking about, but I have my process down so pat that I'm just having trouble breaking away from it. I spend very little time on production. I spend a lot of time in preparation. I script the big videos that you see. Every single one of them is scripted, word by word. It doesn't mean that I follow it, but I want my thoughts to be organized, and I try to pack as much information as I can into a 3-minute video, which often means, answering different questions and going different routes and telling different stories. And I think, honestly, that is why people enjoy them so much, because I do try to pack a ton of information in them. So I script generally the day before in Microsoft Word, and then I pull the Microsoft Word document up And I don't read it line by line. I go run through it a couple times in my head, and then I can reference it occasionally, but that's all I do.
How long does it take you, Jeannie, to do, like, production wise? How long would you say the average video that you create? Because you seem to do a little bit longer form, right? 3, 4, 5 minutes, 6 minutes sometimes. How long from kind of inception of idea to, all the way through kind of production and launch? How long does the average video take you?
So I used to do one a week. I've now taken it back to one every 2 weeks just because of time constraints. I block from 8 to noon on my calendar every other Wednesday. It doesn't always take that entire amount of time. It just depends on the topic and how much research I'm having to do. But pretty much from 8 to noon every Wednesday, I'm scripting, filming, editing, that sort of thing.
Okay. What about you, Jake?
My goal right now is to post daily, but I have a different style, right? And I'm mixing a lot of things in there. I'm not just talking to plan sponsors. So I do a lot of prep as far as getting my thoughts together and organized. And I have a huge list. I'm constantly getting ideas and just dropping them into this list so that when I sit down to make a video, I've got it all kind of figured out. So I definitely put the work in to formulate it, but I'm not trying to provide, I don't want to analyze like the next regulation. That's not my passion, right? So you have to follow what you enjoy. And I don't want to be the one to try and get through all of that content. I just refer to Jeannie's video and she handles it, right? So there's a difference, and it's okay because you have to have your own style. So it's a process. It's just like, I think, exercise or your diet. Like, you have to find a way to be consistent and not just spike all the time and try and then you drop off. Like, you have to figure out how to level that out and keep it going for a long time. Otherwise, it's just not going to be effective.
Yeah. So what I hear you guys saying, a couple of things is, number one, and for advisors especially that are listening, is you're building a personal brand. Like, you have to find your style and you have to find your voice. And that's more of kind of an internal cue, not necessarily an external cue. I think the other thing is, just like, being successful in anything else, you have to develop these rhythms and these habits. If you don't set aside time, whether that means on a daily basis, Jake, the way you're doing it, and maybe creating some more kind of bite-sized content, or Jeannie, whether you're doing it and a little bit longer form, you need to set aside time on a regular basis consistently to put the work in. If you don't, you're going to be chasing your tail over and over again. And it's just like prospecting. I think what happens with a lot of advisors is, they prospect, and if they do that consistently, we know 401k plans is a long sales cycle. But then I always found in my career that it's like when I was in college playing baseball, like, I tended to hit home runs like in bunches. Like, I would go 10 games without a home run, and I hit like 3 home runs in like 4 games. They came in bunches, and then it was like a desert. I think it's the same thing with prospecting. You prospect consistently. You wind up getting, we used to get, it'd be weird. We get in a quarter, we get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 clients, in a quarter, but there'd be a few months of, it was just like the desert. But then what happens is you get busy. Now you got to bring these clients on, and then you stop prospecting. And invariably what would happen with me, I don't know if it's the same with you guys. Like, if I didn't prospect for 2 months straight, there was a gap where we didn't bring on clients for 2 months straight. So that challenge of being consistent and diligent, I think it's the same way content-wise. If what I hear you guys saying is true, is you have to be disciplined about carving out time. Is that fair?
Yeah. And I would say carve it out in the early part of the day. Don't leave that to afternoon, this is a dead time. Like, do it early when your mind is clear and you can be creative and get it done. And maybe you need to do the editing or whatever later, but get the actual footage done and make that a priority. It's a huge part of your prospecting. Even though it's not going to lead to results tomorrow, it definitely will in the long run. It'll pay off. So just like exercise, just like eating, you have to just make time for it. Like, I love riding my bike, and I have so much to do. I could literally work like 24 hours a day every week, for 5 days a week, and still have stuff to do. So there's never going to be an easy time to get content out. Just realize that. There's always going to be emails and calls and texts. So you just have to make it happen. and ignore everything else for that hour, that 2 hours.
Turn off your email.
Yeah.
Like turn off your email. Like you can't have emails dinging. Protect that hour, 2 hours, whatever you have set aside.
There's a great book. I've referenced it before, but it's by a guy named Nir Eyal. He's like a behavioral designer, and it's called Indistractable. It's like a life-changing book for me that I read. But to your point, Jeannie, around distraction, and he had some really cool hacks, just even in terms of like turning off notifications on your phone because of just the like you said, you have your email open. So it sounds like you shut your email down. Like you've got your Word document open, you got your camera on. That's what you're doing. You shut everything else down so that you're not getting your attention pulled away while you're focused on creating content. Is that fair?
Yeah. Teams is closed. Email is closed. It's like a meeting to me. It's important.
I can't stand email. I mean, email has ruined our lives. Like you let email just take over your day right in the beginning, you're never going to make any progress. Like that's probably the worst way to get a hold of me is email. That's how I feel about it. And I know that's how industry works and that's how we communicate. But if you want to reach me, come to LinkedIn. Like that's where you're going to find me because that's where the only place I actually have some alerts, not all of them, just a few. Mostly my team now, just to make sure I know when they're doing stuff so I can engage with it, help them. But you've got to control that. Just like social media, you can blame it and say it's full of garbage. Well, you control what you see. So you can control your schedule, take charge of it. No, you have no one to blame but yourself. You know, if you want to build a personal brand, you have to just start and do it. It's never going to be easy. Yeah. So you just go.
So you guys have both pretty incredible personal brands. Why are you guys, and Jeannie, why don't you go first? Why are you guys passionate about personal brand building? And then also just expectation wise, people can see where you guys are now. But things that seem like they're an overnight success usually take many years. Like how long did it take you guys to actually get traction? So why are you so passionate that advisors should be building personal brands? And then two, how long did it take you guys? And was there ever a moment where you're like, this crap is so hard, like I just want to give up?
No, I don't. I don't necessarily think it's hard. I set out to be recognized as a specialist, but I didn't set out to create a personal brand. I didn't even know what a personal brand was. 401k lady came from a literal 401k participant who walked into the room and said, "Is that 401k lady still here?" And I was like, "Okay, that's funny." And it just happened. And I didn't even realize it was happening until I would go to conferences and people would be like, "You're the 401k lady." And then I was like, all right, well, let's double down on this. Let's get a logo. Let's trademark it. Let's make a concerted effort to keep it there. But what I can say is it's absolutely worth the effort. Jeannie doesn't necessarily mean anything. Jeannie Sutton doesn't necessarily mean anything. I had a name change 14 years into my professional career. Really not much of an impact because everybody knows me as the 401k lady. And talk about not having to do your elevator pitch, right? Like how self-explanatory is that? I'm the 401k lady. I know things about 401ks. It's just made everything so much easier, but it's so much more than the hashtag. It's people being like, I feel like I already know you. Right? It's whether they're in the industry or whether they're a prospect, they've seen me, they heard me, they know my personality, they feel like they already know me. And that just fast tracks a cold conversation to a hot one because they know me and they like me. Jake said it earlier, are they going to relate to you? So I don't think that everybody needs a hashtag. I don't think everybody needs a logo, but everybody does need to know their personal brand, or at least what others are perceiving them as, whether it be family, coworkers, prospective clients. You have a personal brand. You need to decide if you like it. And if you do like it, how do you emphasize it?
Great advice. By the way, congrats. Recently hitched.
Thank you.
Jake, and Jeannie, real quick, when did you start? Did you say, was it 2012? When did 401k lady first come on the scene?
So I started posting videos. I think it was 2018 is when I really started posting videos, and started using the hashtag in late 2018, but didn't start like branding them with a logo until 2019.
Okay, so it's relatively speaking,
Yeah,
it's been pretty recent. It's not like this has been a
10 years in the
long
making.
labor of love, if you will.
Yeah. Mm-mm.
And it helped you because you said you had made a firm switch as well, right? Your brand, if you will, kind of traveled with you. Was that helpful in making that switch? And that's probably relevant as well, Jake, with you now recently moving over to SRP as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't have had this amazing opportunity to join SRP and be a part of this team, I don't think, if I hadn't built my personal brand. I mean, that absolutely played a part in this. And that's the point, is you have a brand, and whatever you're going to do with it, you don't know. I mean, it just opens doors that you're not aware of could be opened if you don't put yourself out there. So you'll find your own way to do it. And we all have brands in different circles of people, right? I grew up, a runner and triathlete. That's what people knew me by. And I've kind of shifted now because I'm so busy. But now I'm known as the 401k, like 401 Jake. Like every time I go somewhere, I have a K on. And it's like, people just know that, and I don't have to bring it up. And if it is something they want to talk about, they know who to talk to. So it's a blast, and you have to have fun with it. But more importantly, you just have to trust yourself and not worry about other people judging you. That's really what holds a lot of us back in doing this and putting yourself out there. Is there's going to be haters, and that's fine. Who cares? Move on.
So that's a good question, actually. Or do you guys think that every advisor, because every consultant says you gotta master social media marketing and all of this, and this is the new way. And I love the fact, Jeanne, that you said, like, I've kind of gone back to like cold calling people. You kind of, you skate to where maybe the puck is going if from that perspective, and do things that other people don't do, like fish in a different pond. That's if the pond's been overfished, find a new pond to fish in. But do you guys think that every advisor should be listening to conventional wisdom that the industry and marketing people say? Like, should every advisor be doing, not the personal branding, because you don't need to necessarily build your personal brand around social media marketing. But do you guys think that every advisor should be doing social media marketing?
100%. I do. And you don't have to do it don't try to mimic other people, right? Like, don't try to be somebody else, just be you. And I tell advisors, it's either video, written, or word, like written or voice. Like, which one do you want to go with? Start with one of them that you're comfortable, and you're going to suck in the beginning. And that's okay. Like, everyone does. That's how you get better, is you have to just start at it. And when you suck, no one's really watching anyway. So it's okay. You're only going to get better and better. Right.
Right.
I'm sure when I finally get around to writing a book, it's going to suck, and that's okay. But I will get better and better with my writing, and that's important. So, and maybe it'll impact one person. That's cool.
What do you think, Jeanne?
So I do agree that I'm going to say future or current, the marketing environment is on social, right? That's where you meet people where they already are. So I do agree with that, but I have the luxury of being a part of a partnership that I think is truly the best way to operate in this business. And you can't have all the skill sets. You can't be the marketer, the creator, the visionary, and be the same person behind the scenes successfully guiding clients through their service issues. It's two entirely different skill sets. So I have, when people are asking, like, do I need to do this? Do I need to do social? It's like, someone on your team needs to be doing social. But I'll also try to encourage people, if you don't enjoy it, if you're not naturally inclined to be a marketer, find somebody on your team who is. Like, don't try to fit a square peg in a round hole. So do I think every team or office needs to have a social presence? Yes. Do I feel like every advisor out there is wired to do this? No. So don't force yourself to do it.
No, Jeanne is a secret weapon behind the scenes. Brian is an amazing guy on her team, and he gets stuff done. So
it is. I say all the time, the best thing that ever happened to me in my career was finding my lifelong business partner / opposite at a young age. Because we work so well together. We have the exact opposite strengths and weaknesses. So I have the freedom and the time to go do what I like to do. And he doesn't have to go out and try to drum up clients. Like, he gets to do what he likes to do. I think it's the best model. I think it's the best model for the individual advisor, and I think it's the best model for the clients.
As Rocky said to Adrian, you got gaps, I got gaps. Together we fill gaps. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
My first Rocky reference on the Fiduciary You podcast. Talk a little bit about, I think one of the challenges being in a heavily regulated industry, right, is compliance. And I think a lot of advisors probably struggle with the compliance element, right, from a lockdown perspective. Obviously, SRP is more open, certainly to the two of you. I don't know about everybody else, but what would be some advice that you guys have for advisors in terms of how do they make the case to compliance to kind of give them some freedom and some flexibility to be able to market on social?
Well, I was lucky because Jeanne paved the way for me at SRP. But if you have struggles, come check out SRP. But seriously, though, you're a salesperson, right? You're helping people hire you to manage the 401k. I'm sure you can sit down and talk to your compliance team and sell them on the idea that you need to build a presence online, right? I don't think it's fair to just blame compliance. And when you ask someone about that, they haven't even sat down and talked to their compliance team about their vision and put together what they're trying to do with this content. So you've got to start by just selling them on the idea. And that takes a little bit of planning. It takes a little bit of work. But what I have found is you can navigate that fairly quickly when you help them understand the big picture, right? And then you get a process in place and you work at it and you continue to go back and forth. And so it takes time and it takes work, but it's absolutely worth it. So your compliance team, they just have to see these blanket no's all the time because most of them are overwhelmed. They have hundreds or thousands of advisors they're trying to monitor. And if you're out there doing something crazy, which a few advisors have done that, and that's why we have these rules, that's why. Like, you're not that person. So help them understand and trust that you're not going to do something that'll put them in a bad spot.
Jeanne, what was the strategy you went with to SRP to say, hey, let me, or the fact that you had this presence, was that kind of part and parcel to, hey, I'm going to come over, but if I'm going to come over, like, these are the things I'm going to need to be able to do.
Yeah. I mean, so my first piece of advice is it's straight shooter. And that is, any advisor in this industry that has been here for less than 20 years and intends to be in marketing and social media, I don't know why you would be dually registered. I don't. I think it's crazy. I know some people have trailing income, but like, I have yet to have a single person convince me that being dually registered is better. So if you're serious about this, you need to be looking at the RIA route and see if it's right for you. I didn't always have necessarily the compliance flexibility that I do now. And so my strategy then was similar to what Jake said: sit down and have a conversation and talk through it. But then I made a point to prove to compliance that I cared and I was listening and I would learn. So advisors get feedback like, oh, well, you can't do this and you can't say this. And they get super frustrated and then they just give up. I spent a lot of time re-recording videos. I spent a lot of time editing videos until I could prove to compliance that I understood where I could go and where I couldn't go. So part of it is the advisor putting in the effort to learn the rules and implement them on the reg. But I had such a history of doing that by the time we made the move to SRP, I could say, look, this is what I do. This is important to me. And so, like Jake said, I kind of got to pave the way where I had built the reputation that I wasn't going to say or do anything crazy, right? I learned the compliance rules and I follow them. So I think that's what you got to show.
So what I hear you guys saying too, part of this is, like any relationship, you need to cultivate a relationship with compliance, and you need to, you need to try to understand their perspective and then do the work to let them know that you're a good citizen and that you're kind of hearing, you want to push, but you don't want to push so far that you stray out of bounds. You want to be able to try to cultivate a relationship, take their feedback, even if that means early on you have to build a reputation. You have to go back and you have to re-record. You're trying to kind of build credibility and trust with compliance that, you're not going to be, a bad offender, if you will, but that you're going to do what you can to kind of work with them, recognizing that they have kind of responsibilities in their role that they need to take care of, and trying to cultivate a relationship with them. Is that fair?
It's literally the exact same thing you do to win a 401k. Like, you just have to work on that relationship, show them, build some trust, do things that aren't selfish, bring value to them, and it'll work out. Like, you'll get there. So, and another hack. So if you have to turn in scripts, use Loom or Descript, and you don't want to read a script, because I noticed people that make those, you look terrible when you're reading it. Make the video, pull the transcript out of the video, with one of those platforms, and then send that transcript in as your script to get approved. And you already made the video, work's done. So reverse it, and then when you get approval, then you can post, right? So there's things that you can work on.
Or just write it in a Word document every Wednesday between 8 and 12.
Yes.
That's the other way to do it. And have you guys found that and maybe Jeannie, to you, that as you kind of demonstrated trustworthiness, that compliance started to kind of give you some more freedom and flexibility and were less rigid?
No doubt. I have the best compliance department in the world right now. But even prior to the firm move, I was in conversations with GRP's compliance department. They were looking at my content, looking at my videos. And so they saw my track record again, right? They saw I was using disclosures. They saw I wasn't making definitive statements. They saw it was educational. So yeah, once you prove to them, like, you're not going to be some rogue advisor, you get more flexibility.
Now, you guys do a lot of, and get back to education. Do you ever worry about people kind of, stealing your content, or like why? And you guys have, and within the retirement community is pretty cool. In the specialist community, it's a pretty tight knit collegial. There's a lot of friendships we all have, even though everybody's a competitor on some level. I think the really good advisors, what I hear time and time again, I know it was my philosophy over the years, and I think you guys would say the same, is that there's so much business to go around. Why is it important? Why don't you worry about competitors stealing your ideas or your stuff? Jake, why don't you start?
Honestly, hold on, that team's call. Honestly, for me, I'm not worried, because I have more energy than other people. And I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I get a lot of ideas, and I love to give away everything I'm doing, because like we talked about before, very few people will actually execute on what I'm telling them to do. So the risk of them following and doing what I'm telling them and winning a plan that maybe we're both going after is so small that it's better for me to share and lift all of us together and make sure that we're making the industry better together, instead of keeping this secret. Because what I do isn't necessarily a secret. You can access, we can all get the same record keepers. We can get the same TPAs. Where the value comes in is my ability to understand my client and really consult with them, and to put them in a plan of action that we're going to work through to make the best possible outcome that they're trying to chase. So I may have a different way to put something together than another advisor, but potentially we could come up with the same idea. So there's nothing that unique about what any of us do, but what is unique is what motivates us and why we're actually doing this. And do we really care about our clients enough to do what's best for them, or do we do something different? So,
and maybe a better way to answer that, and I appreciate that feedback, and that maybe a better way to ask the question is.
Sorry, I've got to get sorry.
Jeannie's out for it. She's taking a time out on us. Jake, why is it so? One of the things I've admired about you is that you do have this desire to help elevate other advisors, to help, quite frankly, competitors get better. Why is that so important to you?
Well, it makes me a better advisor, right? If I'm out helping other advisors, not only am I like, I'm trying to stay humble enough that I'm learning. I don't know. I need to learn so much more, right? And I'm constantly learning. That's what I love about this industry is you never know all of it. So for me, if I can help other advisors in areas that I feel like I'm stronger at, great. Let's do this together. It'll be more fun together than to be completely alone thinking I have some secret weapon. It just doesn't exist. I don't, as an advisor, have some secret way that someone else couldn't pull off. So I love to see others succeed. I think that's the whole joy that comes with any coach or anybody that's doing something like that and mentoring. And as I meet other senior advisors that are, near the end of their career and they love it, like they've made enough money. They're not really worried about that. What's motivating them now is they want to see others succeed. So for me, I think that's just the natural progression that advisors take is they want to mentor others. And I don't know, I just get a lot more fun out of that than other things in my career.
That's great. What about you, Jeanne? Why is it so important for you to help elevate the reputation of the industry?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you'd ask the question, like, are you worried about people stealing your content? Like, I've lost count of the number of people who come up to me and say that they have shown my videos or are like describing a Roth the way that I describe it. And they're like, I hope you don't care. And I'm like, literally, it's fine. It doesn't bother me at all. You want to show a 401k lady branded video to your client? Like, I mean, like, I'm okay with that. So practically I agree with Jake. There's only so many clients that I can work with and I want to work with. And we're at a practice now or a part of our practice growth cycle where, we don't necessarily want to take on a whole lot of more clients. So I don't feel this like competitive need with others. I feel very strongly that clients are better served by 401k specialty advisors. So anything I can do to help another specialty advisor, I'm more than happy to do. That's the biggest thing for me. And just promoting, retirement savings and bridging the gap and all those things. So it doesn't concern me. I believe strongly in elevating the industry, specialty advisors, my peers on LinkedIn. And I'm like, yeah, please do jump up my subscribers on YouTube. Like I have no complaints about that.
No, I think that's great feedback. And that was always kind of my philosophy as well is, advisors get a bad reputation, right? In a lot of cases. And many times it's well-deserved because there's a bunch of knuckleheads that are out there. But, whenever I would lose a deal, and it would happen from time to time, like if I was competing against really good advisors, obviously I wanted to win. But if I lost, I'm like, well, at least I know that the prospect is going to be in good, hands. I can't tell you how many times over the years, Jeanne Stout and I have gone way back and competed in the local market, which, kind of sucked some of the time.
That's a tough one.
I can't tell you how many times because of the respect that I had for her and for her team, where I'd come across a prospect and find out they were with them. And I'd say, you know what, like you're in really, really good hands. Like, and prospects actually liked that. They appreciated that. In some ways it kind of validated. And I did that with other really good teams. What really pissed me off though, was when I would lose to someone who was a chump and like, I would be mad at myself. Like, okay, I did not, do a good enough job of educating the prospective client on, so I was mad at myself. But then I was just mad in general because I knew long-term that company and their people were going to have suboptimal outcomes because they were with somebody who didn't know what they were doing. And that was always the time I got most pissed off when I lost a deal was not when I got beat by, the Yankees. It's when I got beat by like the JV. And that happened from time to time as well. And so this idea that as more specialists win plans, most importantly, companies and their people are going to be better off. But number two is it elevates the reputation of specialists out in the marketplace. And there's so much, instead of like trying to beat each other's brains in against other really, really good firms, there's so many plans out in the marketplace that are with advisors that shouldn't be advising those plans. We need the marketplace to have a high respect for the specialist community. So I just really appreciate that about both of you guys, that commitment to trying to help elevate the industry.
And there's abundance. I like that point. I mean, there's abundance, and getting stuck on trying to win one plan because you got this opportunity. There's 10 more plans out there that need your help right then. So don't beat yourself up as an advisor. That's what I did early on. I put so much effort into every single opportunity, and I would get crushed if I didn't get it. And it was like, why am I like, don't try to convince them. It wasn't anything I did, it didn't work out now, right? Yeah. Possibly will change in the future. And so having that patience and that idea that there's plenty out there and moving on to the next one, that's the kind of mentality you need, which will help you actually be better in your presentations, better in your communication, because you don't have this urgency of like, I got to convince them today.
Yeah, that if I look at most successful people in our industry, to a person, they tend to have an abundance mindset, not a scarcity mindset. 20 years ago when I started at Morgan Stanley, like my first week, there was an advisor who was giving me advice, and he gave me like the worst advice ever. He said, if you want to be successful in this business, he's like, you need to have this mindset. What's mine is mine, and what's yours should be mine. And I was like, that's like the worst way to live I've ever heard. And I definitely don't want to, I don't want that mindset. Kind of as we wrap up, where do you guys get because you guys do create a lot of content. Where do you get your ideas? How do you go about sourcing ideas? Jeanne, why don't you start?
News cycle. I kind of have different avenues. Sometimes it's explaining a news story. A lot of it comes from client questions. We get asked questions all day, like, oh, well, they have that question. Let's answer the question. So questions, news cycles, headlines, anything that catches my attention. I mean, I just kind of file them away and I'm like, all right, let's dig into that. And then I just ask questions about it. Well, then why is that? Why is that the case?
That's great. What about you, Jake?
Yeah, just in my daily process, just all day long, there's ideas hit me from either a client question or a meeting I had, or I'll go on my bike and I'll start listening to a podcast. There's something will pop into my head and it'll sit there, and then I'll put it into my phone, make a note of it. I'll think about it for a few days. And some of those I throw them out. Like, yeah, that wasn't a good one. Then one will stick and it'll just not leave my mind. And I'm like, I got to get this out. And so I think one of the better things you could do, and honestly, one of the easiest processes to get content out for an advisor, is to literally on your Zoom calls, because that's pretty heavy in our industry now, thanks to COVID, just set up your camera, like your phone, while you're having a Zoom meeting, talking to an actual client and recording yourself in that real moment and taking little clips of you explaining something, you teaching something, actually doing it. Then you don't have to duplicate. You don't have to sit down and like turn yourself into this content creator. You just have already made content all day long. That I need to do more of. I keep kicking myself because I keep forgetting to set up my camera and just do it. But like, it's happening all around you all the time. And if you're learning something, that means there's probably a bunch of other people that could learn from that too. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the superpower of advisors in the future from a marketing perspective is you don't have to be a great original thinker per se. You need to be a really good curator. And I think that like you said, questions, headlines, news cycle, those ideas is constantly being on the lookout. And quite frankly, and so this is really more for the advisor audience, is, part of becoming a specialist is one, it's experiential. Like, you can't learn this stuff in a book. Like, the best way to learn is actually get clients and then try to solve as many problems for clients as possible. But also, I think, is you have to be a good student of the game, right? You should be dedicating time every week to be reading articles that are out there, to be watching, content and videos from other specialists. In some ways, you may be able to take, an idea that you hear and then kind of formulate your own content based on that, or to be able to kind of curate that. Or, well, a lot of times you may have a client that you've been talking to about something, and maybe you pull a video from Jeanne or from Jake or from somebody else that essentially reinforces the exact same thing that you've been saying. That's actually a powerful thing you can do. And I used to share content from other people with clients, because it was more validation, like, hey, I'm not the only one who talks about this. See, like, here are these other places over here. So being able to kind of curate, and I think that's a good idea, create a running list of potential topics down the road is a really, really good suggestion. I know for me, my newsletter, that I send out every couple of weeks, I've got a pretty big audience for that. And I usually do it when a new podcast comes out, but usually in that newsletter, what I will do is I will summarize like 3 or 4 articles out in the press, provide a link to it, but really my perspective. And I think that's the other thing around content. Part of the benefit of generating content, creating content, is it helps you galvanize your own thinking. It makes you better. It helps you come up with your own set of beliefs or what you believe or why you don't believe it, and being able to communicate that. At the end of the day, too many advisors try to sell information to plan sponsors and the clients. What they really want, they want your insights, and those insights can be personalized to you. So that's just a couple of tidbits, maybe summarizing what Jeanne and Jake are saying for listeners. As we wrap the last few minutes here, just talk a little bit about, now that you got, at Jeanne, you've been at SRP for a while. Jake, you're now at SRP as well. What's just kind of one of the things you love? Like, why is SRP the right place for you guys?
Yeah, I'll go real quick. I honestly, the culture and the people, like, it is unreal. Like, everybody wants to help everybody else, which is just not normal in our industry. Most people just keep quiet, do their thing, put their head down, and everybody's giving of that way. But also, I think because we're all trained, we all have the same mindset that we're owners in what we're doing. We're building something that will bring value to our customers, but also to our families in the future. And so everybody is just all helpful because it's going to help all of us together. And I think the unique abilities we have, just some of the most talented people in all areas of the industry. And so if you don't know something, there's probably someone here that does, and they're going to help you do whatever you need to be ready for that meeting or whatever is coming up. And it's just unreal. And the collaboration is just the best.
Yeah, Jake's my like brother from another mother. Like, our stories are so similar that of course mine are the exact same too. The people and the culture. I knew if we wanted to get better, Brian and I as a team, we needed to be surrounded by people who knew more than us. Like, we needed to work with and learn from some of the best advisors in the industry. So just like, I thought I knew 401k before I came to SRP, and now I'm like, holy smokes, like, this is what, I needed to see. So just the professional elevation and knowledge and the wonderful people who are there to help you. Like, that's number one. Number two is like Jake said, it's ownership. We both didn't have ownership in the books we had built before. And I've always wanted to be a business owner. I grew up in a small business, and like he said, being able to build something of value for mine and my partner Brian's families in the future, and just that feeling of pride that you get in that, and just dedication, and it just means so much to me. I can't imagine ever not being a business owner again. Like, I'm so proud of it and I enjoy it so much. And the fact that SRP has figured out how to connect those dots, because I don't know of another firm that has. I don't know of another firm that has managed to provide the collaboration and the integration and the communication while at the same time letting you do your thing, like letting you build your book. I'm sure there's one out there. I haven't seen it. I think we are a unicorn in the industry.
Yeah, that's the key to it. You can be as creative as you want to. So even though we're all wrapped under one brand, we have our individual brands. We have our ability to do however we want to do it in our markets, but we're going to also be able to rely on other people and see what they've done in their market and see if we can do something here that would help us. So it's amazing to have that kind of structure and that backing, that resources, but also you have complete flexibility to run your own business.
So amazing. you kind of have freedom in a framework, basically.
Ah, I like that.
I got it from somewhere else, I think.
Curator.
And our leadership team, I will say, our leadership team is incredible for the fact that they're allowing that. They give you that flexibility, but they're also there to support and kind of mentor you at the same time, but not force you to do anything. So I've never had a situation like that.
Awesome. Well, this has been a really good discussion. I so appreciate you guys. I have a ton of admiration for both of you, both in terms of, content and output and all of that, but the commitment that you guys have to the industry and to clients and to participants, and I think this has been a super fun conversation. Where can people go to stay connected with each of you individually? Like, if somebody's listening and they want to reach out, they have a question, like what's the best way for them to connect with you? I imagine it might be on a social media platform, but what's the best way to be able to connect with you guys or stay connected to what you guys are creating?
My favorite thing to say is just Google 401k lady. Just Google it.
The power of the brand.
Power of the brand. But most back and forth, if you will, would be through LinkedIn. So just connect on LinkedIn.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm the same. Yeah, you can look me up. I've got a website. I'm on all social platforms, but LinkedIn's probably where I go to the most. So direct message me there. It's the best place.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Hope you enjoyed the time. I think for the first episode ever, that was a multi-guest episode. I think all in all, other than Jake's Teams call and Jeanne, you just getting up.
I had Teams closed. I don't know how that happened.
60 seconds and disappearing. I'm like, what just happened? I think it was a raging success. So I appreciate it.
Drama is what I
Nice. Well, thank you guys so much. It's been great.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.